Can you hear me?
So let us start. So I'll start from the
Sorry.
beginning.
Yeah.
It's just
Sorry about
simple.
that.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, it's just simple. You just think like you are going to some shop and you are ordering. So there will
Yeah.
come the waiter. He will take the
Yeah.
order. So once the
Yeah.
waiter taken the order, he will go inside and give to the cook. So the cook will
Yeah.
prepare whatever that he want. That's what is happening. So you are here and you are giving your order to the waiter.
Oh, I didn't. Okay. I didn't see your screen.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Now, yeah.
Yeah, I see you. Okay, I see it now. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you are here, and from here you are
Yeah.
giving all your order to the waiter. So once he got
Yeah.
the order, he will go to the cook and he will tell this is what my
Yeah.
order is. So once the cook got order, he will get like whatever the details from like whatever the things that he want from fridge or
Yeah.
wherever that is, and he will do whatever the operations that as by the
Yeah.
waiter, and he will go to give to the waiter or he will go to the
Yeah.
supplier. So based on what the status in that particular like
Okay.
place, then from the supplier you will get the order or he will give to the waiter and waiter will supply you. Normally
Mm-hmm.
that is the scenario in the hotel. So but the same thing is in the MVC. So whenever the request come from the user, it will go to the only one place, which is a controller. It won't go to any other servlet, only one servlet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so from that servlet, like filter we saw, right? First it will come to the filter, then it will go to the servlet. Something like
Right.
filter or servlet, there's only one
Right.
place it will go to, the request will go. So from
Mm-hmm.
there it will decide where it needs to go. Basically like
Mm-hmm.
what Java class, what
Mm-hmm.
servlet, that's what it is. So it will come to this Java bin, which is a Java class.
Mm-hmm.
It will perform all the operation with the database. Just take login. Whenever you're giving username password, it will come to go to the one place, which is the first controller. It will decide to which Java class it needs to go. After that it will go to the
Okay.
Java class. It will like connect with database to perform the validation. Once validation is done, it will give the JSP where it needs to go. So for that JSP it will go, which is the response to the user. So basically, whenever we are talking MVC, there are three things: model, view, and controller. Okay,
Okay.
the controller is this one. That is the entry point. So we are splitting.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you take some servlet, we have login servlet and home servlet like that. So for each
Mm-hmm.
request, it is going to the each servlet. So instead of that, we'll have one controller in between, which decides where it needs to go. So that is the whole purpose of MVC. So there will be only one controller which tells where it needs to go. That is like model view controller. So view is nothing but the JSP that we are seeing, and
Mm-hmm.
model is something which flows through all these like modules, like the data is what we are calling a model. If you take like in the request you are giving username password, so that needs to go to the class and it needs to go to the JSP also. So every page the data is moving around, so that's what the model. So that's why we are
Mm-hmm.
calling it a MVC, model view control. Okay, basically it is like splitting your database code and your that do get to post that HTTP code and your
Mm-hmm.
JSP. So everything will be separate, so that you don't have to worry about like if you change this one, it is not supposed to affect this. So that's how they will
Mm-hmm.
separate all the modules so that it will be easy. But
Separation of
yeah,
concern, right? Separation of concern.
yeah,
Recoupling. Concern.
yeah.
Yeah.
But this was like if you see here, so this is the diagram for a Spring MVC. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
the MVC how it is implemented in Spring. So
Mm-hmm.
it will be somewhat like what you can say, good or enhanced version. So whenever the request comes in, like we told, there will be only one controller, which is a dispatcher servlet. So there will be only one class, which will tell where it needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so from dispatcher servlet, if you see here, we have controller and view. Here the controller is now Java class. So this is not the real controller. Okay, it's the Java class.
Mm-hmm.
So from the requested dispatcher, it will go to something. If you see here, we can see three new names. One is like dispatcher servlet, handler mapping, view resolver. So these things are come from Spring framework. So
Mm-hmm.
these are like you will get from jar file, so you don't have to worry about these things. Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever the request comes in, you just need to configure in your web.xml, like for slash, it will go to the dispatcher servlet. How we done for filter. So all the URL will go to the dispatcher servlet. So from the dispatcher servlet, using handler mapping class, it will decide to which Java class it needs to go. So if you see this is the first one, then this is the second one. From there it will find the Java class. Once the find it, Then it will go to the view resolver. So it's also a predefined one. So here you will give the format for the JSP file. So using view resolver, it will find which JSP it needs to go. That JSP will be displayed. So it's always the same. So there is a request, there is one entry point, then your Java class, then your JSP. That's it. So all three will be separated. That will be maintained. And if you see here model and view, which is the data. So there is some object called model and view. If you create an object, that object can be even accessed in even JSP. So the data will be flowing through all the modules.
Okay.
So that is the model, like that's the model, and then view and controller. So these three things. The controller is the entry point, and view is the your response, and the data which is flowing through this is a model. So that's why we are calling it as a MVC. And if we take some sample like normal MVC, we already done that filter, right? So the request will come to the filter first. That will decide like which servlet it needs to go. Then from there it will go to the JSP. Basically, that's not model view like MVC pattern, but you can still correlate with that one. You got some idea, right?
Yeah, yeah, very good. Yeah,
Yeah.
understood.
I understood there are some codings. As the high level, I'm just explaining.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
know. I understand the high level. I got
yeah,
this concept before too.
yeah. But this one is mostly used, the Spring one. It is very easy
Mm,
to also use also. Like in our normal thing, what we will do, we'll go to the web.xml, or in the annotation, we'll keep on give every servlet, and for each URL, it will go to the servlet, right? Instead of that, here you just need to configure in the XML, like the if we are taking some login.jsp. Suppose if you have a folder like inside webinf /login/login.jsp, even that you can
mm,
configure in .xml, so that if you just give login from this controller, this will find that particular login.jsp and it will go to that. So there are some advantages in using Spring.
mm.
Okay. You have any questions?
No, no, I understand this. Yeah, the high level. Just let me
Okay, so I have some diagram for multi-threading also. Yeah. So I'm not sure like what you asked about multi-threading, but I will start from like what is threading and how we can do.
Okay, yeah, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Let's
Yeah,
go on that.
yeah. So this diagram just shows like what is happening in our machine. So like we have
Mm,
our OS, so that is
mm,
responsible for running every application. So
yeah,
inside OS, what it is happening? So there will be always a process. So
mm,
for each application, like suppose if I am opening this GoToMeeting or some browser, so
mm,
each
mm,
will have its own process. So
yeah,
that's the process all about. For each application, there will be process running, so that there is a multi-process. You can open multi-application at the same time. But inside the
mm,
process, if you want to have multiple things which is running, then it will go for a thread.
mm,
So if you are using only one thread and you are not creating any thread inside of one process, there's only one thread which does all the operations. But if we have different threads, each thread will perform each unique operations. So that's
mm,
where the thread is there in our entire system. So there's OS, inside that you'll have different process. Each process will have the thread. So that's what we are aiming for. So we are aiming for doing multiple operations inside a single application.
mm,
So this is a life cycle, how thread. So whenever you're working with thread, first it should be in the new state. From the
yeah,
new, whenever you are calling that, like starting the thread, it will go to the runnable place. Okay. So after you start, you don't have any control in whether it is executing or not. So your responsibility is you are moving the thread from new state to runnable. So here the OS will decide when it needs to pick and when it needs to run. So in that one you don't have any control on that. Okay. So from runnable, when it is going to run, that means the scheduler chooses the thread to run. So the scheduler is responsible for moving from runnable to running.
Can you repeat that again? What is responsible for moving from runnable to running? Who's
Okay.
responsible for that?
Scheduler. So in every OS there will be a scheduler.
Oh, scheduler. I
Yeah,
see, scheduler.
scheduler.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay. Oh, that's basically that's OS then operating
yeah,
system, right?
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And
Okay.
there is one thing like suppose the system is having a scheduler which is the priority scheduler. Okay,
Uh-huh.
on that case we have option of setting a priority for our thread.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you're creating a thread, you can able to set the priority which is max, minimum, or low. So if you're
Okay.
creating like two, three threads, and for one thread, if you're setting high priority, and the scheduler
Mm-hmm.
which is in the system is priority scheduler, then the thread which has high priority will be running first.
Mm-hmm.
That we
Now,
can do.
may
Yeah,
I ask, yeah, Gary, may I ask you, you know how in Java
yeah,
we create a thread, right?
yeah. That
And
I have
then
the
we
code.
say,
Yeah,
and then we, I know, and
yeah,
then when we say that the thread dot run or something, you know.
yeah.
So when we do that, a thread dot run, does that mean it's running in the running state or it's in the runnable state?
It's a runnable state.
Runnable state, right? When you
Yeah,
do a thread dot run, right?
yeah. It
Okay,
is in a runnable. Yeah.
runnable, right? Okay, okay, okay,
So this runnable to running, we don't have any control.
okay, okay.
Okay. But you won't see any lagging because like like it's just some fraction of milliseconds it will wait,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
you won't see any lagging, but that is what happening. So scheduler will
Mm.
do from running, and then let's blocked means it's like for some reason it is sleeping or resume something has happening, then it is in blocked. Basically
Mm.
here you can still see like, okay, just think this non-runnable as sleeping or waiting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and there is one something called resume. Okay, this diagram is not clear. Okay, just think like uh, okay, I'll just come from the beginning. So there is a new runnable running. After running, so this won't come here in the runnable. So after running, there is two possibilities, whether it will go to sleep or wait. So that's what it is going.
Mm.
Okay, okay. So once it is go to sleep or wait, when it resumes, again it comes to runnable. Then the scheduler again needs to decide like whether it needs to run or not. So that's how the flow is. So once it's completed, it will be terminated. So clear, right? This is the fourth state: new, runnable, running, and terminated. So in between in running, suppose for some reason if it is going to sleep or wait, it will go to non-runnable. Once it is waking up, then it will come to the runnable. Then it will happen.
I know that some interview question they ask like, okay, so what's the difference between a process and a thread? You know.
Yeah, that's what we are telling. So
Okay.
process is for the application. So the
Uh-huh.
application whenever it is running, that will be inside one process. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so if you want to do multiple functionality for the same application, then you will create
Mm.
multiple thread inside that process to do that. So if
Okay.
inside a OS, if you are talking, if you want to run multiple application at the same time, then you will go for a multi-process. So
Okay.
inside a
Would you
process,
say all? Yeah. Would you say the multiple threads? You know, they share the same memory space. Multiple threads share the same memory space.
memory space, no. Okay, yeah, like it is based on the scenario. Suppose if you are doing a code, okay, you just take down something like this. Mm, it is regarding like which object that you are accessing. Suppose there are many things are there, right? Suppose you have one object which is a user object. You don't want
Mm.
two threads to access the same object. Then you will put
Yeah.
that object in a locking state. So whenever one thread is accessing, another thread can be accessed. For that, we have something like synchronized keyword.
Right. Synchronize. Right. Synchronize in the Java.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So using that, you can like restrict access to different threads.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we don't want one thread to modify the other one
Yeah.
thread in the
Suppose if
middle.
you yeah if you take our web application, we know like for every request there will be each thread will be created. But if you
Mm-hmm.
see in that place, both the threads are like there is no connection between both the threads because that is different user session. This is different user session.
Mm-hmm.
So on that case, you can tell like it is different. So there is no like linking between those two. But
Okay.
still, like we have something called servlet context object, which is
Uh-huh.
common in both the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like what we are using there. Okay. So there are two ways of creating a thread. So we'll come to the diagram again. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So two ways, like one is extending a thread and one is implementing a runnable interface. So they
Yeah.
created one abstract class on interface. Basically, both are almost same. The thing is like one second. I forgot to copy the another one. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just see this example. Okay, if you see here, there is one method which is synchronized method. That means
Right,
this method will be called from some thread. So now
right.
this method is executed by some thread. So on that case, when it comes to the if condition, I'm calling wait. That means whichever the thread which is running this method will go to the waiting state.
Okay.
Okay, so whenever some another thread when it is running this method, we are having a notify. Now it will go to that sleeping place and it will just call the notify. Now this won't necessarily say that this will notify the same thread which is in the waiting state. So if suppose there are five thread which is in the waiting state, any thread
Mm,
will be notified that will be running. So if you want all
okay.
the thread, then you can call the notify all. So there is
Mm.
no like we have control over to notify the same thread which is in the waiting. So that control we don't have.
I understand that notify all,
Yeah.
so, but what if it just notify? What thread it's gonna notify?
You don't have control over that. That's what I'm telling. You don't have a control. So it will notify whatever the thread it finds or whichever is priority. So it is entirely on OS based. So we don't have control on that.
Okay. But when you do so I guess I'm a little bit confused. What's the difference between notify and notify all?
No, in this case, only one thread is in the waiting state. But
Okay.
in real programming, so the suppose before calling this method, there are five threads which came inside this if condition, and five threads are in
Right.
the sleeping waiting state now.
Right.
So if we call notify, in the five threads, any one thread will be notified that will be resuming and with that will be running. So on
Okay.
that case, if you want to run all the threads, then you can call notify all. So all the five threads will be come out of the waiting state and will resume.
But if you only all five threads are waiting, then you do the notify. So one of the five will come out and
Yeah,
run,
yeah,
and then the other four will wait there
yes,
until
yeah,
another notify call, and then the next will come out.
yeah,
Is that what it
exactly.
is?
Yeah,
Okay. 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 Yeah.
yeah. And this is example for the synchronized keyword how to use. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
use
Similar.
before the method. Yeah. Okay, and these are some important things. And other than that, you have like a thread pool. So those are like some advanced concept in this one. Like what you can say, like you can give the number of threads that can be created using a thread pool. Suppose if you're
Yeah.
giving a five, then you can create only five threads. You cannot create a
Mhm.
sixth thread. So if you want to create a sixth thread, you want to wait for any one of the thread in the five to complete. Then you can start that one.
Now, to configure the thread pool, is that something in the application that we can set that,
One
or
second,
is that
I will get the example for that. One second.
okay?
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you see here, this is the one. So there is something called executor service class, which is a pre-existing
Mhm.
one. And one second, is a pre-existing or yeah. So it is in Java util concurrent execute service. Okay.
Mhm.
For that one, you will create an object with the number of number of threads. Here I'm giving five. So in the
Mhm.
for loop, this is a class that we created. So for that our thread object, We are creating a creating an object here. So what happens here whenever I'm this is executor dot execute. So whenever you're using a thread pool, so this is how you need to use. You need to use executor service object. Then using that object, you need
Mhm,
to execute. There won't be any like start function won't come. So whenever
mhm,
you're executing
mhm,
execute, that will take this object which will start the thread. So in this case, what happens? I'm calling this one for 10 times. So after fifth time, it will wait for any one of the five created thread to complete. So if you see the output here,
mhm,
five threads is created. Now after thread to
mhm.
end, then only the next thread is starting. After any thread is closing, then only the next thread is starting. So that's how it is. The same five thread will be reusing.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the thread to end, thread to end, okay, and then so why is the thread to end and then thread to start again?
Yeah, because we are start having 10 threads. For
Right.
the sixth thread, like means the five. That means starting from zero. So for the five, it is using the thread to execute it because we are
Oh,
given
oh,
only five
oh, oh,
threads.
thread. Okay, the thread. Okay, okay, okay. I see. Thread. Okay, okay. Finish all thread here. How did you print out thread one, thread two? Is
Basically,
there?
here
How?
if you see here, when you are creating objects for this worker thread,
Yeah.
we are setting a message here,
Mm-hmm.
which is the number we are setting it. So that number
Yeah.
we are printing it here. Basically, for the thread,
Okay.
we are
Okay.
setting a name 1, 2, 3, 4. So that thread we are
Okay.
just printing
Oh,
it.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, now talk about this.
Yeah.
What's the regular thread and what's the worker thread? What's the difference?
Oh,
You
here
hear
the
this
worker
worker thread?
thread is just a method name, like class name.
Oh, worker. Oh, class name.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. I didn't know. I thought it was a part of the.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh, okay. Got it. Implement. It's a class that implement renewable. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
So if you see here for this thread pool, you're using a implementing runnable, not extending a
Yeah.
thread.
Yeah. Okay. So we have to basically pass through the
Yeah.
executor.
Yeah.
Right. We don't do like a new
Start. Yeah.
create a thread and then thread dot start. We don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because basically the control he's the controller. You pass to him and he take care of how many threads are running, whether he start another thread or not, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.